There was actually one vinyl album I had in my last early 80s, funk and soul collection that was from 1983. But for the most part, this second volume of my 1980s funk and soul vinyl is going to be from 1984 to 1989. But here's the last one from 83. The Tom Tom Club's second album, Close to the Bone. Now, this Talking Head spin-off, they obviously had a big hit in 1981, right out of the box. Genius of Love, just in time for MTV. This album takes that sound and makes it just a little bit funkier. It's actually included with the deluxe edition in its entirety of their first album, just the Sire label. No big deal. My boyfriend Scott pointed this out to me. This is not an easy one to find on vinyl out in the wild. Great album by the Tom Tom Club. O'Brien, Be My Lover. He's known for, of course, I'm Just a Freak, I'm Just a Gigolo, but he also did the theme song from Soul Train from, I believe, about 1983 to 1986 or so, and that's not on this album. This is on the Capitol label. This is from 1984. This album, when I first heard some of the tracks from this, I didn't really like it much at all, but when I listened to it later, I really enjoyed it. This was around the time he did the theme for Moonlighting, and there's a song on here I also love called Murphy's Law. Kind of an old R&B shuffle, updated for the new wave era. It's not the song by Sherry, the girl group. But, this album found Al Jarreau in more of the synth funk era, but it's still Al Jarreau. Jay Graydon still did it, and it still got that Al Jarreau flavor. So if you didn't like it the first time you got it, listen to it again. We lost Al early this year. R.I.P. Al Jarreau. This is a Columbia House Service record. There's some liner notes in there. It's kind of made it look like a newspaper, in a way. Change. I always love this group's Art Deco album covers. Change of Heart. This is from 1984 as well. The label is Atlantic, but it has the RFC Records imprint. LaToya Jackson, Heart Don't Lie, also from 1984. LaToya did a version of Prince's Private Joy on this album. This is on Private Eye. I don't know if I've shown you that record label yet, so I will endeavor to do that. There's the Private Eye label. You look on the back. It says, I don't know if I can get it to focus. It says Joe Jackson Productions. Ready for the World. This is the album that had Oh Sheila on it. A lot of people thought it was a Prince spin-off at first, but this is an alright album in general, but it's one of those albums where the rest of it doesn't match up to the hit at all. It's a good album, but very kind of stereotyped. Minneapolis, Lynn LM1 drum machine sort of sound for the most of it. How a lot of people basically imitated Prince at that time and his sound. Dum dum da dum 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 da dum. Just that bass line. Just that bass line was super iconic. Don't Look Any Further. Dennis Edwards, lead singer of the Temptations, on a couple of occasions. Actually several occasions. I heard Dennis is ailing recently. Hope the best for him. This was actually used as a plot device in an episode of The X-Files, but I don't really see it as a stalker song per se. I love Dennis Edwards as a singer. I wish that he had made more than 2 solo albums, and released more than 2 solo albums. He made one in the late 60s, early 70s, I believe, that Motown didn't put out. This is his first that he put out. It had another one. There was another one by him a year later called Coolin' Out, which I don't have yet. Peter Brown, Snap, 1984. I'm really getting into this guy. He made some amazing albums in his time. There's some lyrics and stuff in the back. Silhouette of Peter. Just a standard Columbia label. My boyfriend Scott got this for me. This was sealed, but I opened it because I wanted this album more than anything. Tamio, Single Life. Still got the Hype Singer, Thicker. Attack Me With Your Love, Urban Warrior, A Goodbye and I'll Never Look for Love. There's a 3-member lineup of Cameo. You'll all seen the Atlanta Artist label, so I won't show that to you. That was just before Word Up, folks. Sade, Promise. You know, the big hit, Sweetest Taboo, Never As Good As the First Time. Generally, though, a very jazzy, kind of torchy album in a lot of ways. This record was one of those played around the house ones by my mom and dad a lot when I was about 5 and 6 years old. This particular album was given to me by Scott as a double. It's on the Portrait label. I think you've all seen that. Squiddy Politti, Cupids and Psyche. This could be considered a new wave album, I suppose, but it's also really close to the sound of a lot of dance funk of that era. As a matter of fact, the big hit from this album, Perfect Way, was covered as an instrumental version by Miles Davis on his 1986 album Tutu. It's on Warner Brothers. I heard the Tutu version first. I didn't know it was a song by Squiddy Politti that he covered. There's Squiddy Politti and a bunch of stuff in the back. Radiance. I picked this album up even though they kind of appear to be Ready for the World lookalikes. This album is also from 1985. Really good album. Actually, I think stronger than Ready in the World for a way. They're on the Q West label. Or Quest. I've heard it pronounced Quest. Scott pronounces it Quest. It's probably pronounced Quest. Denise Williams, Hot on the Trail. This album came out in 1986. I really don't know what to think of it, but it's a really strong album. You know, and it's on Columbia. Really good record. If you see it, you know, check it out. It's not bad at all. Matthew Wilder's lesser-known second album, Bouncing Off the Walls. Now, this record was an album that he recorded a couple years after Break My Stride had come out, and he never recorded anything that I know of again. Again, you could say this might be a dance rock oriented album, but you know, it kind of fits in with the soul funk thing to me. Actually, this record is from 1984. I'm sorry, I don't know why I put it in with the 86 once. I thought it was 86, but it's actually 84. This one really was 86. Mtume, Theater of the Mind. This is not an original album, this is a reprint. I got it half off. There's James Mtume. This is on the Epic label. Latoya Jackson, Imagination, from 1986. Funkytown Groomers recently reissued this, but it eventually went out of print a little bit later. Also on a Private Eye label. I have this on cassette. Again, not a bad album. Ready for the World's second record. Long time coming. About the same as the first album. And MCA Records. Not bad, not great. The next album was a shock for me to find. And the way I did it, it's going to be a shock for you to find it here. Jill Jones. This is understood among Prince fans to be one of the very best of the Paisley Park Prince protege albums to be made from '87. You know, this has got G-Spot on it, Violet Blue. It's just an amazing album. This record, I found it in a dollar bin. I don't think the people really knew what this was. I say that because it won't drive the price up. It's going to be hard to find that anywhere. Also on cassette. I'm going to show you the Paisley Park label. There's Jill. There's Paisley Park. Chris Jasper, Super Bad, 1987. Still dressed in his Isley's outfit. Got a gold-plated, looks like a Moog Liberation, can't be sure. There's Chris on the back. He always looked like a magician. Love that. There's the back and the front of that album. There's the CBS record in blue. Gold City imprint. Kind of a rare label. Patty Austin, The Real Me. There's a lot of Patty Austin, I guess, in my collection. She just had a birthday. Happy birthday, Patty. This is an album where she covers a lot of standards, but in a very contemporary way. It isn't an old-timey thing, which I can appreciate. Patty's really great at what she does, vocally. And she was a child star, too. There's a picture of her in her child star years. Siedah Garrett, another Quincy Jones female protege. She's the composer of Man in the Mirror. This album came out shortly before her appearance on Back on the Block. She actually did a version of the Michael Jackson outtake, which you might know if you're on YouTube, called Got the Hots, called Baby's Got It Bad on this album. Really good album. I mean, Siedah Garrett's an artist I felt was kind of slept on. There's the liner books. There's actually the regular Quest label. I'm not going to bother showing you that. Stan Campbell. Now this man, I didn't know what it was when I got it, but it looked familiar. He was involved in a group called the Special AKA. This is a bit of a Terence Trent D'Arby sounding album. It's kind of a topical album in a lot of ways. Kind of proto-neo-soul. It's on the Electro label. Chris Jasper, Time Bomb. 1989. His second solo album. There's Chris again on the back. There's a liner book with lyrics and stuff. By this time, he's on the Gold City label straight up. There's no blue label. I think Gold City is actually Chris Jasper's personal imprint. I think he still records on that today, as a matter of fact. June Pointer, her second solo album. This is called June Pointer. Pretty good album. I wasn't as into it as her first, but it's still pretty good. Liz Hogue. I could not find any information for her, and according to my music cataloging system, Rate Your Music, she doesn't even exist. Vicious and Fresh. This album is also on Gold City. Produced by Chris Jasper. That's why I bought it. It's got a picture of her on the back. Lyrics. Same Gold City label as Chris Jasper Time Bomb album, so I'm not going to bother showing you that. The Pasadenas. I was watching a YouTube video about Top of the Pops, and it talked about them appearing on that show. I think the song they were on there with was Tribute Right On, if I recall. This is their debut album on Columbia Records from 1989. There's an insert in here too. Lyrics. The Pasadenas were a group. They had a little bit more of, shall we say, a political bent, socio-political bent to them than even a lot of the other British soul and funk and dance groups of that era. So that completes my collection of soul and funk albums from the 1980s. So keep a lookout for these records, and if you do, I'm sure you'll enjoy most of them, especially things like that Tom Tom Club album or the Jill Jones ones. So for now, enjoy your music. Peace.